Well, good afternoon, everyone. I was asked a few questions in the break about the title of this talk, How to Have a Christmas #1 Single, specifically in the UK. And the answer to the question is yes, I will be going through that. And yes, you will, by the end of 18 minutes, understand how to have a Christmas #1 single. But in addition to that, we're also going to look at why we might not even start that process. And I need to warn you, the second part of this particular talk is going to be very interactive. So don't get too comfortable. So first of all, why how to have a Christmas #1 single? Well, when John challenged me to do this talk here, my first thought was, no, I don't want to do anything like this. But he said, talk about something that really inspired you. And at the time, it was coming up to Christmas. And I was listening very avidly to the radio, as I do. And something happened this Christmas that I just thought, wow, that is absolutely incredible that that could happen in this country. So that's really what I'd like to tell you about. In order to do that, we've got to understand a little bit about the UK chart system. Now, I should say, I'm not Simon Cowell. I don't work in the music industry. It's just an interest of mine. But when I started to research it a little bit, I started to look at the Christmas #1s in the UK singles chart over the last 20 years. And it's really, really interesting. Because we're a funny old country in the UK, and we like to kind of do things our way. We're a bit quirky, and we like to have a bit of fun. So when you look at those #1 singles, of course you see Cliff Richard in there. It wouldn't be Christmas without Cliff Richard. You see Michael Jackson in there, Whitney Houston, Queen, but you also get some unusual ones as well. Who can forget Bob the Builder with that smash hit, Can We Fix It? The words to which my 4-year-old knows off by heart. And of course, the other astounding success in the Christmas #1 charts was Mr. Blobby with the hit single, Mr. Blobby. And I think only in the UK could we do that. There's a sense of fun about it, there's a sense of irreverence, and a bit of excitement as well, because sometimes it's a pretty close thing. In fact, the Spice Girls in, I think it was 1998, did make #1 for the third time, but they only beat into second place by 5,000 sales, which isn't very much, Chef from South Park with, again, a smash hit, Chocolate Salty Balls. I've always wanted to come on stage and say Chocolate Salty Balls. I'll say it again. So there's that kind of fun and that irreverence and that sense of enjoyment and excitement as well. And there's a tradition also of betting on who's going to be Christmas #1. That is, until about 5 years ago. Cue drum roll, fanfare, flashing lights for the X Factor. That mighty machine, the biggest talent show in Europe. You've got, whether you love it or hate it, you've got to admire its success. Absolutely incredible. Do you know over 200,000 people apply to go on to the X Factor? These wannabe pop stars, 200,000 of them apply. And of course, it all boils down to just one winner. And on the most recent series, on the final night, 19.7 million people tuned in Britain to watch this talent show. 10 million votes were cast. For those of you in business, just imagine if you're on your next product launch, you had 19.7 million people tuning in, 10 million of those interacted with you and paid money to do so in some way, you're going to have a pretty successful product launch, aren't you? So it's no surprise that for the last 4 years, from 2005 to 2008 anyway, whoever has won the X Factor has gone on to be the Christmas #1. It's like a done deal. The programming is so clever the way it's set up because the final appears just before Christmas. The winner, in this case in 2009 it was Joe McElderry, records a cover of a song. In this case it was a song called The Climb. And that is then released pretty much the next day. In fact, the show's broadcast on the Saturday. It's released on the Sunday, which is when sales start for the Christmas #1 period. In this case, last year, it was December the 13th. So very clever, isn't it? Because you know loads of people are going to buy that tune. So it's a pretty sure thing that it's going to be #1. And in fact, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, that's exactly what happened. Whoever won the X Factor got the #1 slot. And it got to the point where the bookies stopped taking bets. on who's going to be number one because it was this done deal. So 2009, Joe McElderry wins the X Factor. It's all positioned. It's all ready to go. But about a month previously, a rock fan and his wife, this is John and Tracy Mortar, based in Essex, no big marketing budget behind them or anything like that, decided they didn't like it. And what they decided was they were going to start a Facebook campaign deliberately aimed at keeping the X Factor winner off the Christmas #1 slot. And that's pretty much what they did. Now, what's interesting about it is they had tried the year before, failed miserably, but this year, a couple of factors came into their favour. One was the band they chose and the song they chose from that band. Now, I don't know if many people in this audience are familiar with Rage Against the Machine. Doesn't really come out of our radio too often. They're how they described by the Telegraph as a rap metal, described by the Sun newspaper as foul-mouthed rockers. And that pretty much kind of somewhere in between is where they are. They're very politically active, they're very heavily charged, it's loud, it's offensive. The song they chose contains the F word, the expletive. It's used 17 times. And actually, when I thought about the choice, I thought, how exactly they're going to broadcast this on national radio? And in fact, there is a clean version. And also contains the lyric, "I won't do what you tell me." That's a real rallying call in Britain. I won't do what you tell me. So such a brilliant choice of song, a brilliant choice of band as well. So they started this Facebook campaign. And the sole intent of this was to get this particular single, the Rage Against the Machine song, to the #1 spot. Now, I don't know about you, I don't use Facebook that much. I'm not interested in reading that one of my mates has just got up and hasn't got dressed yet, which is pretty much what I see on Facebook. Just got up, got a hangover. Yeah, suddenly now, Facebook seems to have a use. As John Mortar was quoted towards the end of this, and he said, I just really started it as a joke. I thought, well, wouldn't it be fun to do something like this? I expected about 200 to 300 people just signing on, going, yeah, let's give it to the man. In fact, what he found was that every time he pressed the refresh button on Facebook, another 100 or 200 people had joined. 1,000 people joined in 10 minutes. He started this a month before the actual race commenced for the Christmas #1. And the day that the battle was really joined, he had 645,000 members on Facebook. Now, 645,000 people going, yeah, I support you, is not the same as people going out and actually buying music. So it's always interesting to see what's going to happen. And in fact, from that point, it really got exciting. And I remember being absolutely glued to the radio and checking it on the internet as well, because on day one, Rage Against the Machine were #1 download on iTunes. Day two, Rage Against the Machine, 66,000 sales ahead of the X Factor winner. But inevitably, that kind of success couldn't continue. Of course, the X Factor winner had a hard copy CD release, which Rage Against the Machine didn't have. And as we went through the week, I remember being more and more disappointed. In fact, it got to the Saturday, and Joe McElderry was 11,000 sales ahead of Rage Against the Machine. And pretty much the bookies were saying, it's not going to happen. Really nice try, but it's not going to happen. And then something magic happened. In one day, in fact, it was between 9 o'clock Saturday morning and 12 o'clock midnight that night, 200,000 people bought the Rage Against the Machine song as compared to 150,000 from Joe McElderry. And the end result was Rage Against the Machine, 500,000, Joe McElderry, 450,000. And Rage Against the Machine got that top slot. It's a phenomenal achievement. There are only over 1 million members on the Facebook page. £95,000 was also raised for the homeless charity Shelter as a result of those actions as well. Absolutely incredible achievement. It just goes to show what you can do just by starting something off. So why don't we do it? Well, there's a little thing called belief. And another British trait, as well as sticking it to the man, is another little thing called there's not really much point, is there? Because no one's going to take any notice. And you know what? It's just not going to happen. And we tend to get into that mindset very, very easily. So I thought, what would be a great way to demonstrate to this particular very enlightened, very educated audience at TED what we might be able to achieve in a very short space of time. Now, I've just been shown the 10-minute sign, which means I've got about 6 or so minutes. So what could we achieve in 6 minutes? How about this? How about if every member of this audience in the next 4 or 5 minutes were to memorize a list of 20 unrelated objects so that you would know them forwards, backwards. If I asked for where one particular object was, you'd know what the one either side it was. Do you think we can do that in 4 minutes? No. See how British we are? Okay, let's do it anyway, because I've got some very strong belief here. Okay, so here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to tell you the objects, you're going to memorize them. 2 very, very simple techniques we're going to put into place. Number 1, all you need to do is clear your mind. Don't worry about it, don't try and remember, just follow along with me, because we're going to use a linking technique that's very, very simple to take up. Secondly, repetition. We're going to go over it several times, and then it's going to be over to you. Okay, so please, everyone, please just clear your minds. Don't think about anything in particular. And let's go for the first object. Please picture in your mind a cliff. Now, you can see this cliff like the White Cliffs of Dover, if you like, with the waves crashing against it, but just get a really clear image in your mind of a cliff. Standing on top of that cliff is Michael Jackson. Miracle. Okay, so you've got the cliff, you've got Michael Jackson on top of the cliff. On top of Michael Jackson's head is a crown. Let's picture that sparkling crown there. And on top of the crown is a sticking plaster. You know, if you cut yourself, you put a plaster on it, just a sticking plaster on top of the crown there. And on top of that sticking plaster, there's a hammer. Okay, over to you guys. What was the first object? Great. A little bit louder for the camera, please. Second object? Next object. Next. Next. Pretty good. 25% of the way through. On top of the hammer, we talked about earlier, jumping up and down, is Mr. Blobby. Got that? Mr. Blobby wobbling around? And Mr. Blobby has got ground pepper cascading all over him. So after the hammer, it was Mr. Blobby jumping up and down, and then pepper cascading all over him. Mr. Blobby is also eating a giant bar of chocolate. So picture him munching away on that giant bar of chocolate. And the chocolate packet has a big X, big black X on top of it. And then resting on top of the chocolate bar is a map of Europe. Okay, back to the beginning. First object? Great. Next? Fantastic. 10 down, 10 to go. On top of the map of Europe is a ladder, like a step ladder. So that's the next object, is the ladder. And it's leaning against the wall of a betting office. You've got a map of Europe, ladder on top of it, leaning against the wall of a betting office. And as you look at this betting office, you can see it's not very well put together. The mortar that's separating the bricks is crumbling away and sort of coming away in your hands. Okay, so we had a map of Europe, ladder, betting office, mortar. And coming out of this betting office is a very angry man. So picture him, steam blowing out his ears, red face, really angry man coming out of the betting office. And he's carrying something in his hand. And it's a magazine called The Face. Don't know if you all know that magazine. Ooh, let's go back to the beginning. First object. And the face, great. Okay, five more to go. You look into the betting office and there's a TV screen in there. You can see a horse race. And you can see those horses thundering towards you. So the next object is horse race. As you look at the leading horse, on top of it, the jockey is wearing an iPod. Bizarrely, listening to music. So we've got, after Angry Man, the face, then it's the horse race, iPod, which the jockey's wearing. And on the jockey's shirt is the word champions. Okay, so we had horse race, iPod, champions. And in one hand, the jockey's got a CD, and in the other hand, he's got a radio. Okay, here we go. Right back to the beginning. This is 20 objects. From the beginning, please, all together as loud as you can. Go! Absolutely brilliant. Give yourselves a round of applause. Fantastic. Now, what's that got to do with belief? How many people, just being completely serious at the moment, when I mentioned earlier on that you'd be remembering 20 objects in order, thought, can't do that. Please raise your hand. Interesting. About half the audience, perhaps a little bit more. Feel a bit more confident about that now? That's not the answer we want. In all seriousness, sometimes we limit ourselves by what we believe we can do. We don't even start. We don't even try. So let's say you wanted to cause something to happen tomorrow, or better still, this evening, or you wanted to inspire someone. You might remember this talk. You know how you're going to remember this talk? Cliff Richard, Michael Jackson, Crown, Queen, all people who got to number 1 in the UK singles chart. Sticking Plaster, Band-Aid, also got to number 1 in the singles chart. Hammer, Bob the Builder, also got to number 1 in the singles chart. Mr. Blobby got to number 1 in the singles chart. The Spice and the Chocolate, also the Pepper and the Chocolate, Spice Girls, Chocolate Salty Balls, there, said it again, was the big battle in the chart as well. X was the X Factor. After that, Map of Europe, biggest talent show in Europe. The Ladder, Joe McElderry's song was called The Climb. The Betting Office, bookies actually stopped taking bets on who's going to be Christmas number 1. Mortar, John and Tracy Mortar were the people who started the Facebook campaign. Angry Man, Rage Against the Machine, of course. The Face, the Facebook campaign. The race, the horse race, was the race to number 1, and you can tell people day by day if that's what you'd like to do. What was after the horse race? The iPod, number 1 download tunes in iPod. After the iPod Champions, we had, I didn't tell you about this, but the newspapers and radio stations that championed the cause and the campaign. What was in one hand? CD release for Joe McElderry, but not for Rage Against the Machine. And finally, radio, because it had national radio coverage. Enjoy telling other people about it. I've enjoyed talking to you. Enjoy the rest of it.